We'll edit it out. That's why, we're a bunch of rookie bitches right now, Joe, just trying to figure out this new tech program. So it's quite the world we live in, isn't it?
That's why we needed a veteran to come in and show us the ropes.
Well,
Exactly.
I'm not
That's
a
why we
veteran
needed
on
the
a
best of the
freaking
best.
podcast. I can tell you that. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I was just telling Charlie beforehand. I'm like, this is drives me nuts. Like, we had to scrap one full episode before because my business partner Brent, he could hear himself talking and I couldn't hear it. I was just like, oh, it sounds great on my end, so don't worry about it. I'm sure it won't record like that. Yeah, it recorded like that the whole like hour. It was just him like double talking. And I'm like, oh my God, we got to erase it. I tried to do like the magic audio and all that stuff. Nothing helped. So like, we have no idea what we're doing. It's like, I was telling him too, like most weeks we can't figure out our headphones. It's like, I can't hear it in my headphones, but I can hear it on my speaker, or I can hear both. And then I can't hear my mic. It's just a debacle. So learning as we go, which I'm sure you guys are as well.
Love. Oh my gosh. We are learning a ton. And that's why, as we'll intro you here shortly, but that's why we're bringing you on, man, because you got all the great stories of the life that we lived. So excited to have you on. But yeah, certainly this Riverside shit is definitely new. Feels fun to be a rookie again in that sense, right? Get to learn things on the fly and whatnot. But yeah, let's just get right into it. We're not here to banter with you. We're gonna intro the show. We're gonna get after it. We're gonna have fun with it today. So welcome everyone to another edition of the Late Inning Show. We are your hosts. I'm Charlie Furbush, and this is Tom Wilhelmsen down in AZ. This is our weekly podcast. It's going to be packed with big league stories, some Mariner baseball highlights, and plenty of laughs along the way. Please give us a subscription, or subscribe, I should say, on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Give us a follow on social at The Late Inning Show. We are on Instagram and X, and we're posting. We're having fun. We're going to be dropping new clips every week. So please tune in and engage with us. We're excited. And yeah, it's excited to really, really take this show to the next level by bringing on our network and our guests and one of our best buds here is today. So Tom, why don't you tell us here who we got on the screen with us?
We got brother Joe Beimel with us, man. How you been, Joe?
Phenomenal. How have you guys been?
Good. Where are you at these days, man?
Fantastic.
Well,
Texas,
I'm in Pennsylvania right now.
California?
It is.
Are you?
I moved back here probably Pennsylvania. I moved back here about 3 years ago. Yeah, my parents were getting older, so I was just like, hey, I better go back, spend some time with them while I still can. And first couple years, great. I mean, it's been great back here, but winters are just ridiculous. So the first year I was like, man, I haven't spent a whole winter there before in a long time. It was awesome. There's snow, it's cold. I was fine. And then this winter, I'm like, this is freaking bull crap. Like, I'm so ready for this crap to be over. I don't know. Can I swear on this show?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm trying not to, but I want to really bad because it was that bad. Yeah. So we got a couple nice days here recently. 2 days ago, it was like 70. And I just looked outside and it's freaking snowing again. So yeah, it really pisses me off. But with that being said, I still enjoy being back here.
Do you have a facility out there, or are you kind of just running it from, because you have one in Texas, right? One in California.
Right. Yeah. I don't have a facility here. My cousin does. One of my cousins, he's got a facility called Beimel Softball and Baseball. And so I go over there every once in a while and I work with some kids in the area, but we still have our training facilities in Los Angeles and El Paso. So kind of do things from afar. I program all the athletes daily. So that's basically my full mornings are just going on, seeing who's coming in on the schedule in both places. And then I go on, program them, their mobility, throwing program, strength stuff, all that stuff for the day. So keeps me pretty busy during the, morning and afternoon, and then pretty much free after that. But obviously running a business is not easy, especially when you're like thousands of miles away. So we've got good people that work with us, and my business partner, Brent, he's good at what he does as well. So it works.
And he's in El Paso, or is he in LA?
He's back in LA now. Yeah. He moved back there I'd say about a year ago. So it's been good for him, good for his family, and good for the facility there as well.
Nice. Well, Joe, I got to ask, man, you've seen it all. 12, was it? Am I wrong? 12 years in the show? Is that what it is? my bad. My bad. Amazing. 13 years. I looked it up. 676 games pitched. Incredible. Just almost what, a strikeout an inning. I mean, you set the tone for a lot of years, and you played for 8 teams. Am I correct?
I'm not even sure. I honestly don't know. I'd have to sit here and like count them up. I get that asked all the time too, and you'd think I would know just offhand, and I'm just like, I couldn't tell you. So after this, I'm going to memorize it. And the next time I'm asked, I'll be able to figure it out. That's funny you said strikeouts. I laugh at that too, because there was a year Garrett Cole struck out like 300 guys in a season or something, and it took me till I think maybe I was playing in Seattle to get my 300th friggin' strikeout in the league. And I just laugh because there are guys that just strike out everyone, and I like struck out literally no one.
I think.
Well, you pitched for 13 years, man. It's unbelievable, right? You don't have to strike guys out to pitch on the show. I mean, that's what that's where I want to get into it, man. Is like your journey from starting in Pittsburgh, as a young kid coming up. I can only imagine how different the game was then versus what it's like now. And it's like, what did you do differently, or what did you feel like you did that made you stick out, that made you last as long as you did? Because you're obviously doing something right to pitch for that long.
Yeah, I always wanted to pitch as long as I could. I think you guys may remember this. I just always said I was going to pitch till I was 50. Didn't make it. Well, I mean, I'm not 50 yet, so who knows? Maybe there's one more comeback in me. Probably not.
There certainly is, brother.
But that was one thing. I do think not striking out a lot of people was a benefit for me because less strikeouts means less pitches. I think we forget about that sometimes. When you do strike out a lot of people, you throw a ton of pitches. So my goal was always to throw an inning if I was in there and get out of there with the least amount of pitches as possible, just because, as you guys know, in the bullpen, you never know when you're going to pitch. So you might go 7 days without throwing at all. You might go, back when I was younger, it might be 7 days in a row. That I didn't let that happen as I got older. But when I was younger, I was just like, yeah, put me in there. I'm ready. I'm ready to throw. So that didn't benefit me very much on the personal side, in my own statistics and things like that. But, you just try to throw the least amount as possible in case you are in there the next day or the day after that or the day after that. So that was one thing that I kind of focused on when I was younger. But the game was way different back then. I came up in 2001, and I think I don't know what today is. Is today the 6th? Maybe the 6th. I think my debut was on April 8th. Yeah, so it's going to be 25 years in like 2 days since I first came up to the big leagues. It's just like, oh my God.
Wow. So cool.
I'm so old. But it's just, it's crazy yet, to think. Man. It was that long ago. I am not 50. I will be 50 over a year. I'm going to be 40 this month. What are you going to be, Charlie? Your birthday's this month, right?
Yeah, I'm turning the big 40 next week.
Are you?
The big 40. Yeah.
Dang.
And you actually, Joe, you share a birthday with my older brother. So
that's right.
He's going to be turning 44. Yeah. Small world, man. And then lo and behold, Tom and his wife decided to get married on my birthday. There's all these weird things that have happened in our lives that continue to bring us together,
Yeah, that is pretty crazy.
Right.
That's nuts.
Going back to...
I would say go ahead. That's the delay right there. That's the delay that I always happens on Riverside. Like you go to talk.
It's all good, man.
Yeah.
But going back to saving your arm, trying to throw with the minimal pitches that you can. I think I remember your Mariner debut. You had just come in after me, and you did not have to throw a pitch. You just picked off the dude that I left on base before your first pitch. So if you can just have guys get on in front of you and then pick them off, then you don't need to throw any pitches. But was that at home? Was that in Seattle?
No
Do you remember that? That was at 2014?
That was Oakland, wasn't it?
No, that was at Anaheim. At Anaheim. I remember it was David Freese was on first, and I was facing Ibanez, and just, I hadn't been in the league in a long time. I hadn't pitched in the big league since like 2011 up until that point. That made the team out of spring training 2014 after some arm issues. And I was just like, we'll throw over, see if anyone remembers I have a good move. And lucky for me, they did not. So got him.
You don't have a good move. You have a great move, man. It's a fellow lefty who had a kind of a dog shit pick over. Like you were so good at reading the runner. I was always envious of being like, yeah, I can't do that. That's just not in my skill set. I'm gonna take the other side. I'm gonna try and strike him out.
Yeah.
You know,
Sometimes
as a
that's better,
righty,
but
I always wanted to be able to do that, pick somebody off. And I think now we worked on it a little bit back in 2017 when I was with the Diamondbacks, and we worked on picks to third. Not like it would ever happen, but I channeled my inner Beimel there, and I mimicked your move because I just remember it being so stinking good, you know? And then I got high praise from these coaches. Like, hey, Willie, that's pretty good. I was like, well, I played with one of the best, you know, Joe Beimel.
that's funny. The only issue is if you balk there, then the run scores. They don't just get to go down to
Right.
second. So you got to.
Right. Well, it's not my
You
run.
can't really play with it too much. Exactly.
I think, how many, do you know how
one
many
thing, like when
pickoffs
I've had quite a few. I don't know the exact amount. I know there was a year in 2002 where somebody wrote up an article about it, but it was like one of the best holding runner season of all time or whatever. And I had Jason Kendall as my catcher, and he couldn't throw anybody out. So it kind of worked to my benefit because people were always going to try and steal on me. And then I had like a crazy amount of pickoffs and caught stealings that year. And I didn't give up one single stolen base the whole season.
Let's
so
go.
It was pretty cool. Yeah.
I think I only have one pickoff, successful pickoff. It was Eric Sogard, and I got him on the third pickover in a row, which now you cannot do, right? You were only allowed two. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think so.
Right?
I don't like it at all.
At all.
At all.
Yeah, I
do
agree.
I like a lot of the rules that they've used to speed the game up, you know, but that's one of them where it's just like, I get it, but it kind of takes away from people who do use that as a weapon, you know, because I always told myself,
Right.
well, I can't teach myself how to throw 95, which, you know, little did I know I did teach myself to throw 95 later in my career at 44. But at the time I was learning my pickoff, I thought just velocity was God given. There was nothing you could do to like increase it that much. So I was like, there's no excuse for me to not have a good pickoff move. So I kind of worked on it over the years. And then when I was with the Dodgers, you know, we had Maury Wills as like a coach in spring training, and he would take all the lefties every year, and we would work on it because he was one of the best base stealers of all time. So he would tell everybody, you know, what he looked for when he was playing and just the differences between going home, going over to first. So I really tried to work on those almost every day just to get them so they were very similar, and, you know, just put that work in on it, and it ended up being a weapon for me. So I do not like that can't throw over whenever you want, but it does also make it kind of, I could see it being a strategical thing where if you throw over a couple times, the runner's going to think like, oh, well, he's not going to come over again. And then you come over again anyways. And like you said, it's not my run. So who cares if I balk and he goes to second?
Is there more satisfaction picking off a guy that's like a speedy guy or like a David Freese who you don't think is going to take second?
Usually the good base stealers are hard to pick off. You'll get one once in a while, but it's usually, I would pick off on guys that I thought weren't really going to pay attention. So somebody who isn't a base stealer, I felt was a lot easier because they're just kind of out there. Well, they're like, well, I'm not going to steal, so he's not going to throw over here, and then got him. You know, so it's one of those things and younger guys who don't know you, they don't know what to look for when you're coming over. I would say the best one, I picked off a guy in, I think it was Hosmer, and when we were in Kansas City. And the only reason I enjoyed that one because Rusty Kuntz was the first base coach, and he was our first base coach the one year in Pittsburgh, and he could never figure out my move, and he would tell me that. But he was like one of the best first base coaches out there. And I picked Hosmer off while Rusty was coaching first. And Rusty had told him, don't go too far or he'll pick you off. And I did it anyways. That was probably one of my favorite ones.
That's great. I mean, then it transitions back to the mound, because one thing that you're known for, Joe, is your incredible success against one of the greatest, if not greatest hitters of all time in Barry Bonds. I mean, it looks like you faced him 16 or 17 times and he only got one hit off you.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
That was that was just kind of by mistake. No, it was I grew up watching him, right? He was the hit was obviously a mistake because it was a homer, but he had 73 that year. So I didn't feel that bad.
The only hit he got. So the hit he got off you was the year he hit 73.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, that was a homer.
That's wild. Okay.
But I had come in to face him, my rookie year, came in Pittsburgh. He hit a home run off me in San Francisco. I got to face him again at home, came in, faced him with the bases loaded, struck him out. And when I was with the Dodgers, that's when I faced him a lot. It was pretty much, it seemed like every freaking week, I was facing him. But I got to face him a lot, and he was obviously trying to break a bunch of home run records at that point. Everyone was terrified to throw him a strike. And because I grew up watching him, I was just like, I'm not going to pitch around this dude. I just don't care. Like, if I give up a homer or I give up a hit, I'm supposed to. He's one of the greatest to ever live. So I'm just going to attack him. I didn't necessarily have like a pattern or anything with him. I just attacked him with strikes. And I think he was kind of shocked because no one threw him strikes. So it was just like, wait, why'd this kid just throw me a freaking strike, outer half? So I literally went after him. And I remember he may have been like 1 for 15 off me at the time. And I remember saying to somebody, I'm like, dude, this is just crazy because he's such a good hitter. There's no way this is going to last. Like, he is eventually going to get another hit off me. And I came in that game, of course, and throw him a fastball or something. And Ryan Klesko was on first base and he hits a freaking seed right back at me. Bonds hits it right at me. I catch it like right here, turn double Klesko off first. And then I was like, well, maybe he won't get another hit off me. Who knows? I might just be that good. But then I think that was the last time I faced him. But it was really cool. Like I said, just because I grew up watching him and in Pittsburgh, like him and Bonilla and Van Slyke, love those guys. And then obviously we had Andy as our coach in Seattle. So yeah, the game's been pretty awesome for me because I just, and I'm sure the same with you guys. It's just, I grew up watching guys and then, got to face Ken Griffey Jr. and Mark McGuire and Tony Gwynn and all these guys. Right. And you don't really think that that's going to happen when you're a kid. You have like their poster in your room or something and you're just like, man, I'm literally facing this guy right now. He's in the box. Like, what is happening? So it's almost surreal.
It is.
I can't agree more. Yeah. I mean, Tom, you probably have the same thing. I know when my second game in the big leagues, I got to pitch against the Red Sox, who I grew up a huge Red Sox fan. In 2004, when they finally won it and reversed the curse, I was a crazy college kid just celebrating like a dumbass at the end of the day, not thinking that in the next less than 10 years, I'm going to be facing David Ortiz. Like, totally surreal, so cool. It is such a fascinating thing that we get to go through because, it's hard to, look too far ahead in advance. And, you're always hopeful as a kid, you want to make it there. And then once you're there, you're like, all right, well, let's just stay in the moment. Let's just live now. So, but then once you're done, you go, okay, this is so cool. I'm so happy and so fortunate and have so much gratitude to go through it. So I know from facing the Red Sox, it was like, okay, I'm good. I don't need to pitch anymore in the big leagues. Like, that is the greatest day of my life. I just shut out the Red Sox, got a win. This is amazing. Okay, I'm in. Tom, do you have a team, like you grew up with the D-backs? Obviously, I know you grew up a Mets fan, but do you remember facing somebody like that too?
I think, yeah, my debut, I am like huffing and puffing. First time on a big league mound in Oakland, huffing and puffing. Just heart rate is just more intense than it's ever been before. And then you kind of settle down after a few outings, a few appearances. You realize, oh man, I belong here. I'm good enough. And then I hadn't felt that until the first time I had faced like Derek Jeter. He was one of the guys where that heart rate started pumping again. And I'm thinking, please don't hit him. Please don't hit him. As opposed to, dude, hit this guy. Like, you're just a human being at the end of the day too, albeit a very good baseball player and one that many of us looked up to. But, yeah. And after that, it was, kind of same. Here we go. We got to get outs. We got to win ball games.
Sure. Anyways, I want to know, Joe, ABS is taking over the game. Everyone I think likes it. I like it. Where are you at? You think this is going to be a good thing overall for everyone involved?
Yeah, I think so. I like it. I mean, you just see how good the umpires are too. I mean, you got to look at, they're not missing by much if they miss. It's not like, and there's once in a while a ball's a strike and it's, full ball in the zone. You don't really even see that much. There might be a couple, but everything just seems like it's like zero point 0.1 inches and you're just, oh, come on. Like, it's not that far. You know what I mean? So I do like it though, as long as it's accurate. I think that's the biggest part. And I think there could be some inaccuracies with it. I'm not that educated on it. I've kind of looked into it a little bit. And, I was wondering, I had heard somebody talk about it and say that the zone is taken from like the middle of the plate. I don't know if that's true, but
right.
If that is, and not the front of the plate, that can obviously create some inaccuracies where if the ball, and it's just crazy because these guys are so good that they can throw pitches that move 0.2 inches by the time it reaches from the front of the plate to the middle of the plate. You know what I mean? So I think that's the part I don't like, is if you're calling something a ball by 0.1 inches and maybe it is a strike, by the time when it does reach the front of the plate as opposed to the middle, that's just where it's like, that's kind of dumb. But overall, I think it's pretty awesome. And you just see how well the hitters know the strike zone as well. Pitchers don't know the strike zone worth a shit, because I throw stuff up there.
I agree.
And I'd just be like, that's a strike. What the hell's going on? That's a strike. And then I go in and look at the video afterwards and be like, no, that's like 5 inches off. Like, but I guess that's what makes us good too, because we just think we're that good. So we're like, yeah, everything I throw is a strike. And then you look back
I've
and you're
never
like,
thrown a ball.
Yeah.
Do you think, Joe, you would have gotten more strikes called for you if this was like, deployed when you were playing? Because I'm on the fence of the way that I threw and the cross angle firing, that I think I actually made it harder on some umpires, that maybe certain pitches that I thought were strikes were called balls. So I think that I would have actually benefited and gotten more strikes. Now, I think Tom and some other guys I've talked to have feel the opposite, where they're like, I don't know, man. There's a bunch of times where the umpire totally hooked me up, and I probably wouldn't get as many now. So I don't know. Where do you stand on that?
I think I probably would have got more calls. I know there was a year, man, I think it was 2000, when I was with the Dodgers. I remember our media guy or our PR guy coming up and being like, "Hey, you're like number 1 in the league in getting balls or getting strikes called balls." And I'm like, "Oh, that sucks." I was like, I don't feel like I am, And I think Takashi Saito was on our team as well, and he was like number 3 or 4, as our closer. But I was literally like number 1 in the league at the time that he came and told me that, which was, more than halfway through the season. And I just thought like, oh, I feel like I get a lot of the opposite. But I threw a sinker like back then that was a lot heavier than when I got older. And it was a lot faster. So I think that might have been hard to read or whatever. So I think that pitch itself would have got more strikes. And then as I got older,
that on the catcher.
I think it was probably 50-50. Yeah. Well, that's another thing, right? You got to realize who your catchers are too, because I had Russell Martin that year, and he was really good. And he's one of the first guys who started like working up through the ball, if not the first guy to start doing that. And the other catchers on the team weren't very good as far as receiving goes, so they're just like slapping it down and trying to pull it back up. But before all those stats came out about catchers and how many strikes they get called balls and how many balls they get called strikes, like I knew who the good catchers were, like that I threw to. And I was so picky with catchers. I hated throwing to a bad catcher. So then even got very fortunate in Seattle to have Zunino there. He was a close second to the best catcher I ever threw to. I really enjoyed throwing to him. And like I said, Russell Martin was by far the best, but Zunino was a very, very close second. And he didn't necessarily work up through the ball. He was just freaking so strong that he just stuck everything. It was pretty impressive.
Yeah. I was, for me, when I was on, I felt like I could hit low and away pretty good, pretty consistently. And Z would, like you said, his forearms, he's just so strong. So he was able to like twist that, twist his thumb up to make it look a little bit higher. Love throwing a Z, shout out Mike, and then with that comes to, like the ABS, like if I'm getting this call from this umpire, and this is an R day right before the APS, and I realize he's calling an inch or two off the plate, and I'm able to do that again, like, heck yeah, I don't want the ABS. I want this human being behind the dish, calling that every.
Yeah, for sure. That's what does make it tough. But you're also seeing guys just, if they're not sure, they're not doing like the hat tap, because if you're the asshole who loses like all the challenges in like one at bat, and then it comes down to the ninth inning and you lose because somebody gets punched out on a ball, you're like, my God, I can't believe I did that. Or you're just super selfish and you don't care. You're like, well, it was my challenge anyway. So, but I can see how that it just adds another layer to the game, and I don't think that's ever really a bad thing. But it does. You have to be careful, and it's more strategic with that stuff now.
Yeah, totally agree. Well, especially now how much data goes on and how much specialized information for everyone that they have. It's quite an undertaking. Scouting reports, TrackMan information. Do you think it is more, or you think it's easier to pitch today, or is it more complicated to kind of figure out the data and how to use it efficiently for you? Because obviously I think that we all came up where we're going to use our strengths and we'll take some bits of information on a pretty basic level of a scouting report or things we could work on. But now it seems like the floodgates are open and there is an immense amount of data. Like, is it easier to handle today, or do you think it's harder?
I think it can be both. It depends on your organization and who explains it, who tells you the right things with the data. I think it can be. I always thought pitching in the big leagues was way easier. I was never great at pitching in the minor leagues. I think obviously the players in the big leagues are phenomenally better, even between the big leagues and AAA. It's like not even a comparison, right? But for me, I had a hard time pitching in those leagues because there wasn't very much data on any of the players. And we didn't really have, I think my last year in Seattle is really when like the ball flight data started with TrackMan and all that stuff. And it wasn't as in detail as it is now. But you did have scouts. You did have professional scouts that saw the team and they'd give you the scouting report. And I always liked having that, but I also liked having the information of going back on video and seeing who I faced in the lineup, what I did against them, how I got them out. And I would go back before a game and I'd watch that and then kind of use the scouting report to see if I was still in the same ballpark with, whoever was coming up. But with that being said, didn't want to completely blow up how I faced a guy and what I did against him and then just scrap that for what a scout said I needed to do. So it was just kind of a balance there. But in the minor leagues, you don't have that, right? Like you just go in and your catcher puts down the sign. You're like, all right, I'm going to throw my best pitches here. And that's it. And a lot of times that's great. That works. For me, I liked having the other stuff. So I feel like having more data in that regards for myself would probably be better. It'd probably make it easier just to know what to do, how I matched up against each batter with my specific stuff. And that's where I think it's a little better than scouting reports. Because even, when we were playing, you get a scouting report. It's like, okay, you can elevate the heater on this guy. It's like, well, who can? Like, yeah, right. I can throwing 88 or he can throwing 98. You know what I mean? It's like, which guy? And now and now everybody knows, like, fastballs move differently. Does this guy have more vertical break where he's got more ride, or does he have, more horizontal movement, or does he come from a lower arm slot and he gets a little, vertical approach angles a little flatter so he can elevate? So there's so many things now that we know that we didn't really know back then. You kind of knew, but you also, you get those guys that throw 86 and they throw it belt high by somebody and you're just like, wow, how's he doing that? I don't understand.
Right. Well, the invisible. Yes, the invisible.
Yeah. Like Chris
that's
Young,
another,
right?
That's another, CY. Wow. That's another factor though about, pitching in the minor leagues, AAA over, versus the big leagues. I felt that AAA was a bit harder for a couple of reasons. Maybe you're a little butthurt that you got sent down, so you're dealing with your own ego and that. But also the balls are different, right? Like my two seam moved much better. I had more control over it with a big league ball than I did a minor league ball. It drove me nuts. I wish it was all universal. But also, like, big leaguers have an approach.
Yeah, that was a
And
huge
you
one
can
for me. I hated the minor
pitch
league
around
balls.
that. They're just up there. They see a former big league pitcher, and they're like, I'm just going to hack. And it's like, well, how can I get my work in? My ball's not moving the way it's supposed to be. I got a bigger uniform than I want to pitch in. That's, and you're just hacking at everything.
Yeah, it is funny. When I came back and pitched in 2021, we were using big league balls at every level, from like double A and triple A. So it was so much better. It just made it like I was so pumped. And then I pitched well, so it made sense. But yeah, it's such a difference. And it's hard to come into a game with like 7 or 8 people in the stands on some of these minor league parks. You can hear everyone having a conversation, and you're on the mound, and you're just like, when there's 20, 30, 40,000, you hear the roar of the crowd, but you can't just hear like somebody talking in the front row. Oh yeah, I forgot to pay the water bill tonight before I left for the field. And you're like looking over like, what is happening right now? Why can I hear that?
You can hear them eating nachos.
So it makes it harder. It just,
I agree.
Yeah, exactly. You can hear the person, like the guy on the radio, because they play it like in the stands. You can hear him talking, and it makes it so much more difficult.
Dude, it's funny the energy that you can feed off of, or lack thereof.
Yeah,
imagine
for sure.
Playing like during COVID, like playing in front of those fake fans. I mean, I didn't have to do it obviously, but I would imagine it to be a lot more difficult to get like really pumped up and in the zone that you need to be to perform at the highest level against guys at the highest level. So I appreciated a packed house, whether I was home or away.
Yeah, same. Yeah, without a doubt.
Pack that thing out, man. Absolutely. Unbelievably packed. It's way more fun to pitch in that stuff than it is in an empty stadium. But, Joe, you've been on a ton of good teams and teams that have, had some pretty strong chemistry. So do you think as teams, you kind of see how the league is treating players differently. I mean, even with the Mariners, they go ahead and sign Colt Emerson to this big contract. He hasn't even stepped on the big league field. How important is it to have, honestly, like what I call like an adult in the room, like a veteran presence, a guy that's been in the big leagues, to be there as that leader inside the clubhouse? Because I feel like when there's too much youth inside of a clubhouse, that doesn't necessarily emerge a leader. And I think that's really important as a young player coming up, to have a leader in the clubhouse. How important is it to like mix in those older players with the younger generation so that they can take that, lessons and wisdom to hopefully be a successful big leaguer?
I think it is tremendously underrated, especially in today's game. The older players are the ones who have been there, done that. They're the ones that are going to teach you how to be a big leaguer, because it's different. There's a lot of different things you got to deal with on the day-to-day basis. Preparation is different every single day. And then just learning the game. Nothing replaces a good veteran player, simply because he's been there and he's done it. And you might have a really good coach in the clubhouse. He might know every single thing there is to know about baseball. But for some reason, if they didn't play at a higher level, there's just, and I hate to say this, but there's just kind of that almost lack of respect for somebody who hasn't been there and done it, because you can't sit there as someone who has never played in the big leagues and act like what it takes to play in the big leagues. There's just a thing with it that it's hard to explain, but you've never been through that grind of playing every single day, going from February to the end of September, and then sometimes October. And obviously, if you're lucky and blessed, you get to play till the end of October. That's a long freaking season, and it's just different when you're playing and you're going through it than when you're kind of sitting there telling everybody how to do it. And I've just seen it in so many clubhouses where, a coach will do something, third base coach, hitting coach, whatever, and maybe they didn't play in the big leagues. And not to say this is right by any means, but just the guys who have been there for a while be like, oh my gosh, this dude trying to act like he's got 20 years in the big leagues. He's never even played, And it's just, I don't know if it's still like that. And maybe that was the issue. So you obviously we know there's a lot of people in baseball making decisions that haven't played, and they probably didn't like that. They probably was like, well, we don't want these guys because they're going to talk shit about us, so let's get all the older guys out of here. But it is hard to replicate, because I feel, even for myself, I learned so much from veteran players, and a lot of times it wasn't comfortable. The veterans, when I was young, they'd freaking get on your ass if you did anything wrong. Like if you breathed wrong, they were freaking on you, and remind you that you are a freaking rookie piece of crap. Like,
right.
that,
Don't be
there
lounging
wouldn't be a
in the
day that went
clubhouse,
by
Ricky.
where you were not. Exactly. There wasn't a day that would go by where they would not remind you of that, or like just even walk through the clubhouse and be like, why are you walking in here acting like you got 10 years in the big leagues? And I'd just be like, I didn't think I was. I was just walking in. But it is very humbling,
It's the only walk I got, man.
And yeah, exactly. I'm badass. I can walk like a badass. What can I say? But it was,
Well, that,
and that's
that
where
right
like
there.
the rookie stuff coming in and the hazing and all that stuff, not necessarily a great thing, but kind of put you in your place, and you knew these guys have been here. I've got to respect them. And you couldn't show them up. You couldn't do any of the things that I don't think happen anymore. But yeah, it's definitely super important on that end. Just having those older guys kind of show you the ropes and teach you the game, and teach you the game the right way.
I think that's huge. And I think also that veteran presence and veteran leadership right there is why, we were the best in baseball, best bullpen in baseball that year. We had guys like you holding it down with that water, which is outstanding. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But, Fernando Rodney up there, another guy that I know for me is a late inning guy who threw, mid to upper 90s, closing in and out, like watching him go about his failures and successes. And, oftentimes you're a late inning guy. You just saw, Kendrys Morales, Mike Trout, and Pujols, and you gave it up. It's like, shoot, sometimes getting 3 outs is hard. A rookie will deal with that a little bit different than the guy who's been through it before. So when you see that live in the flesh, how they handle their stuff, and then they come out the next day, very next game, face the same 3 guys in the lineup, and how they, deal with that. Like, you can't, that's tough to learn on your own. So to have somebody that's been through it and doing it in front of you can only help our clubhouse, our younger guys.
Yeah, especially I would say late inning guys. That's another thing. It's really good you brought that up, because even for myself as like an older player, getting the last 3 outs, you can try and act like it is not different, and it's different. It just is. There's a different feel, different adrenaline. You feel different out there. I remember with the Mariners coming in Tampa and closing out a game. I don't know if it was used our closer and late guys. I don't remember exactly why I was in there to close a game. Kind of weird, but I was just out there.
Because you're nasty, Joe.
Yeah. Yeah, it must have been like the 15th inning or something. But I was like, oh my God, I'm so nervous right now. I was just on the mound. I had to tell myself, hey, remember, you're like pitching right now. You're not just, because I was just in there freaking chucking it and not really paying attention what was going on, because I had so much adrenaline. Then finally, I think I had thrown a ball or something, or maybe I went like 1-0, 2-0, and I was like kind of snapped out of it. Like, hey, like, get a hold of yourself here. We got to get these freaking 3 guys out. And then, settled down and got out of it and punched a couple guys out, which was also funny. I punched like 2 guys out that game. That was like more than I got like in the past month. But just having that extra adrenaline, it's different. So having a veteran there to kind of, and obviously it's something you have to experience and go through. Somebody can tell you as much as they want. But if you do have that veteran guy who prepares you for that, and then you get in there and you're like, oh yeah, he wasn't shitting about this. This is different. I'm going to kind of use his guidance and do what he told me, So it really does help having those guys in the clubhouse for sure.
Yeah, I can't agree more. I mean, that's really why we wanted to bring you on, Joe. I mean, I think we both felt that just getting to know you when you made the team out of spring. You had a absolutely killer spring. It was nice to have another fellow lefty in the bullpens.
Huge beard, super great, jacked, like physical specimen.
I know.
I remember seeing you for
Set
the first
the tone
time.
in
Just
so
like,
many ways.
holy crap. Who's this Wolverine guy?
Yeah.
Just jacked.
Yeah, you didn't know I was this handsome under that big beard all these years.
That's right. That's right. But dude, I remember
That's
some
what
of the
I-
lessons you were teaching the young guys, man. Like I remember you would tell a guy that came out into catch session before a game and he's throwing 99 and you're like, dude, you don't need to do that right now. Like this is completely unnecessary to like throw it as hard as you can in practice, you know? And I think that's like, if you don't have anyone telling you, or if the coaches are letting you get away with it, then you may end up getting hurt more than you want. Because as we all know, you only have so many bullets in the tank, and you might as well save them for the field instead of doing it on the side. So it's little things like that, and that's where I'm like, Joe's the man. He knows all this stuff. He has all this wisdom. So I appreciate you hopping on. But yeah, that's the type of stuff I remember as a veteran guy like yourself teaching some of the younger guys. It's huge information to take in as a rookie.
Yeah, I think one of my biggest things that I learned from veteran guys in the bullpen was not to over warm up, right? You're going to get up, you're going to get dry humped how many times a year, how many games you're going to pitch in. You know what I mean? You don't have the luxury to go out there. They get you up and you start firing, and then, the inning gets long and you're just still throwing. So by the end, you've thrown 20, 30 pitches, and then they sit you down, and then they get you back up, and then you start throwing. You keep throwing until the inning ends. So a lot of guys, especially a lot of younger players, everything is so structured in the minor leagues where it's like, hey, if you're up, you're going to be in this game. And if they sit you down, well, you're in the next inning. So you don't really have to worry about throwing too much. Same thing in high school, college, like, when you're going to pitch. It's not like the big leagues where you're up, down, up, down. And if you're up 5 times and don't get in a game, too bad. You better be ready tomorrow, because if you didn't pitch and you go to the manager and say like, hey, I can't go today because I got up 5 times yesterday, he's going to be like, all right, next. We're going to call somebody else up. That we can't have that. So you have to be able to know, one, you have to have a routine, and you have to do it every time you pitch, and you might not be locating or whatever, but that doesn't really matter. That comes in secondary. Your job is to just get loose. So for me, I just always had a routine where I threw 10 pitches and that was it. And then I was ready. And if you don't do that and you get up a bunch and you're throwing 30 pitches every time they get you up, you're going to be done after week 3 or 4. You're not even going to make it through the summer, let alone the first couple weeks of the season. So I had to be told that as a younger player. And I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And then so I made sure when I went to a new team and I saw a younger player like over warm up or throw too much before the game, I would make sure to go and tell them that, because you might have a coach that will go say something, but we have to remember these managers, pitching coach, even bullpen coach, they have so much shit to do, and they're responsible for the whole team. They don't necessarily, they're not dialed into your specific, your personal routine or your personal warm up that you do. So yeah, we see each other every single day and we see each other throwing. So it's much easier if, an older player goes up and says, hey, you should probably think about doing this. And then a lot of times if it comes from a coach, it seems like you're in trouble or something. You know what I mean? Which isn't necessarily the case, but if a coach comes up and says, what the hell did you overrun second base or whatever you might have done on the field? If it comes from a player, it's like, hey, they pull you aside, talk to you. Hey, this is what you did wrong here, get better at it. Or they might bitch you out, be like, hey, you can't do that shit, and that's where the veteran leadership needs to come in. And that's what makes it so important.
Yeah, I think, in my experience working with the Mariners this past spring, the last couple years in spring, down in the bullpen, there's a lot of guys that are down there in the bullpen that are doing it for the first time, whether they're moving to a bullpen role or they just got to eat some innings. And, they're trying to struggle with, well, how do I know, when I'm ready, how many pitches do I need? And that's different for everybody else. But I think a lot of them forget that, you also get 7 out there on the mound. So that's an extra 7 pitches that you can work with if you get to know your body and how much time you do need, which hopefully can save your arm a little bit as you're warming up, knowing that you have those 7 out there too. I'll get asked often, like, well, how many days did you pitch in a row? How many games in a row? And it's, I've done 3 numerous times, maybe 4, but that's not even the biggest part for me. The biggest part is come August when you're, in the game or on the mound 11 of 12 days. That's when you really got to figure yourself out and how many pitches, throws it takes to warm up and what you need out of it. And, oftentimes when you're throwing that many days in a row, you might not need your 10 pitches or whatever. You might just need a few. So you're constantly just trying to be aware of your body and yourself and what you need to, again, perform at the highest level on any given day.
Yeah. And through this whole thing, and that's what we're going to shift. We want to know, because you got to stay hydrated when you're doing all this. Those dog days of summer, man, they get wild. And Joe, you introduced us to something we didn't even know existed when we met you. And it is remarkable. I'm hoping, I guess we have a ton of questions, but you were really into high quality water. And we're not talking like the Waterboy movie type shit. Like, this was legitimate high end machine that took normal water and then made it better by turning it alkaline. We got to know the history, man. Like, where did this start? Where'd you get introduced to it? Are you still doing it? Like, do you travel with your machines like you did in the past? I mean, what's the deal? How did it all start?
Well, I got some right in here. Some high quality.
Hey,
is that
always
a 9?
have it. That's all I'm the biggest. It's a 10, but
okay.
Yeah.
A 10.
Okay.
A 10. But
God.
yeah, that's all I drink. I am a total water snob. Like, it's funny because I'll drink like 12, 15 beers. But if there's like a Dasani water sitting there, I'll be like, oh, you think I'm going to drink that? That's terrible for you. Be like,
Dasani's
that stuff's got plastic in it. Yeah. It's a 4.5 on the pH scale. Like, we can't have that crap.
Oh, I think that's why this caricature is
story
so good.
about it.
Yeah, I want to hear the story, but that's why the character is so good. Is you're the one manning the hose.
Yeah,
the water
we're making sure we
for
got
all of us
some
young. Yeah,
I would imagine that
bucks.
acidic water is probably better for putting out fires. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe you do need alkaline. Acidic water has a place too. And don't get me wrong. You just don't want to drink it. But
Okay.
You might want to wash your face with it. You can use it to clean your countertops. That'll kill like 99.9% of bacteria. Yeah,
Hey,
just
right.
water. Just water.
So who
Nothing
introduced
in
you to it?
Yeah, so back when I was with the Rockies, a bunch of the guys were super into like health. They had this book called The 120 Healthiest Foods on Earth, and I have it to this day, and it has like, the most healthy foods. And then there are certain ones that are like all stars, and they have a star by them, like eggs had a star, and blueberries and different, like kale, I think, had a star. So it was a really good book. And there was a time where I only ate stuff that was in that book, and that was it. I didn't eat anything else. And then I kind of, I allow myself to kind of get away from that over the years. But I played with Jason Giambi that year. Yeah, Fritos. Yeah, but Fritos, they only have 3 ingredients, They don't have all the other crap.
Oh, I know now.
Just corn, oil, and salt. So you can't go wrong if there's 3 ingredients. But Giambi, yeah, he had this water machine, and I was just kind of interested. And at the time, I think he was in his 40s, maybe late 30s. I can't remember what he was that year, but he had obviously played for a long time, was a superstar in the game. And he was like, hey, I can get, he was kind of explaining alkaline water and different things like that. So I got a machine, and basically what it does is there's 2 filters in there. It filters out the water, just your regular tap water. And then it puts it along like this through this like system, and it changes the water half alkaline, half acidic. So the acidic stuff gets flushed out a tube that goes into the sink, and then the alkaline, if that's what you push, because there's different buttons, the alkaline comes out the little spigot on there. And when I first started drinking it, he's like, hey, make sure you only drink alkaline 1, because that's at like 8 pH or whatever. Let yourself get used to it for like 2 weeks. And then you'll go up to 2. That's like a 9. Drink that for 2 weeks, and then go up to 3. That's a 10. And then you'll be fine after that. And I was just like, what are you talking about? Like, it's only water. Why do I have to just go up slowly? It's like, what else is being
I have to
put in this
train
water?
my body?
You know? Yeah, it was so weird. And so I just did it. I didn't really ask a whole lot of questions, but I noticed I started feeling a lot better, was staying more hydrated, was getting hydrated earlier or sooner than I was with like the bottled water. And I wasn't like going to the bathroom as much either because I felt like my body was like keep staying hydrated and holding on to the water, and I just started feeling better. But with that being said, I had a buddy come visit me when we were in Denver, and he came up to our apartment, and I was just like, I didn't explain it to him. I just like pushed the button, turned it on, and I got some water. I drank it. I left. Well, he saw what I did and just kind of did the same thing. So he drank like the alkaline 3, which is a pH of 10. And I go to the field and we take like BP or whatever. And I look at my phone and I have like a shit ton of missed calls from this guy, like a bunch of texts. And I'm like, what is happening? Did he like burn my freaking place down, or what's going on? So I call him up and I'm like, hey, what's going on, dude? Like, you called a bunch of times. Everything all right? He's like, hey, are there any side effects to that water? And I'm like, side effects? No. Like, I said, you didn't drink like alkaline 3, right? He's like, yeah, I did. I just saw what you did and I did the same thing. And I was like, geez. I was like, you're shitting your brains out, aren't you? He's just like, since you left, I haven't gotten off the toilet. I was getting so worried. I didn't know what was happening to me. I was like, yeah, it's crazy because it's all it was alkaline water. There's nothing else in it, but you know, it'll light you up if you don't do it in the right order. So I was glad I did it in the right order, but I've had people over the years who I guess maybe their body was super acidic or something and they didn't do it the way you're supposed to, and they paid for it.
Rookie bitch.
Insane.
But still got it. I got a cool system now. It's like under counter, so it doesn't have that big box, you know, like that I would bring on the road. It's just like a little spigot that comes up, and the box is under the sink, and then the spigot thing's got a touch screen on it. So high tech, but yeah, still drinking it. You got to. All water is not created equal.
So that brings up the question.
That's so good, man. I'm so happy to learn about it and that you're still drinking it, because it was something that we had never seen. And as you know, you start playing 10 plus years in the big leagues. You got to make adjustments. You got to make sure you're feeling good. And it's certainly, I'm assuming it helped you last as long as you did, dude.
I would think so. You know, numerous other things. And Farquhar would always say I was like the gimmick guy. Like, oh, you have a gimmick for everything. I'm like, no, I just do shit that works, man. That's all it is.
That's so good, man. Well, now I want to ask you just a couple fun questions. You know, all that stuff was great. Let's just go. Give me a favorite road city. We dropped you in. You got an off day. Where's your favorite road city?
Chicago, without a doubt. Not even a comparison.
Ooh.
Just my favorite.
Nice.
It's like Wrigley Field's
What
my
are you
favorite
doing
place
on your
Earth.
off day in Chicago?
And granted, I haven't been to every place on Earth, but Wrigley Field is phenomenal to me.
Nice. Now, all right, conversely, what is the least desirable road city or stadium to be in? And we're not talking about Oakland because they're not there anymore.
We're not. I didn't mind Oakland, to be honest, because we stayed in San Francisco. And I didn't mind the Coliseum. Or is that what it was called? It was called something else.
Yeah.
It had like a ton of different names, I think, just even the couple years that we were in Seattle together. But I loved the grandness of that place. You know, obviously the clubhouse was terrible and stuff like that. But I would say, man, I just don't like Cincinnati. Like, I don't know what it is. Just don't like it. It didn't love the stadium. Didn't love, you know, and I've got some former teammates and clubhouse guy in Pittsburgh from Cincinnati, so he might be pissed. But yeah, just Cincinnati was just a place I didn't look forward to going to. But also the big league, it's in the big leagues. There aren't really any bad cities because you're in the big leagues. But if I had to pick one, that would probably be
okay.
Man, not one of my favorites.
All right. Who was your first strikeout?
Man, that was 25 years ago, as we were talking earlier. It's hard to, I don't know if I can remember that far back. It was,
it
was
you know why
Richard
you can't
Hidalgo.
remember? Because Richard Hidalgo. Very nice. Good. Because we always, you know, I don't know about Tom, but I tend to say the same quote that I feel like maybe we've stolen, but you know, sometimes you got to get rid of the small memories to make room for the big ones.
That's right. That's right. Our boy Kenny Powers.
Unbelievable. That's right. That's right. Unbelievable. So next question is, I want to know best bullpen setup because there's a bunch of different ones that have different setups. You know, some are indoors, some are outdoors, some are super close to the fans, some aren't. So, do you have a favorite setup that you liked?
Well, I did love Wrigley, and I know a lot. I was like
Were they
in the
on the field?
minority on that. Yeah, it used to be on the field, and I loved that. I loved sitting on the field, interacting with the fans, and I know they moved it like underneath, so that kind of sucks. But that was always my favorite. And then I loved Seattle's setup, especially at home. I'd say that was the best home setup of everywhere. I really enjoyed that
Dude.
bullpen and just where it was, and next to that bar out there. That was it. It was just fun. We had a blast.
You bring up on-field bullpens, and I'm so glad they're gone. Like, I'm so glad they're gone in every sense, because I just thought it was the funniest thing. And I think I did it a couple times in Oakland, maybe actually in Tampa too, before they moved the bullpens, where you're warming up and then you throw a shitty pitch and it goes onto the field, and then you like, time.
Yeah.
This
Yeah,
guy's
for sure.
this guy is not accurate down in the bullpen. Like, I always thought that was so awkward, and I just felt like such an idiot. You know, I'm like, oh my gosh, really? You know. And when you bring up now T-Mobile Park, formerly Safeco, I would say, I don't know how you feel about it. It's probably the most exposed bullpen when it comes to fans. Like, you can stand right there on the railing and be as close, almost touching us, which is kind of awkward, right? I mean, I don't think, you know, not many stadiums have that much access. Yeah, it's something I always thought, like, I can't believe that, one, the fans would be so close, and two, why aren't they just like going over to the visiting bullpen and just giving them all the shit in the world, right? I felt like it was just too nice of an experience. So I know the Mariners fans have done a better job of making those visiting bullpen teams feel uncomfortable, but yeah, that's it's certainly fun. Do you think bullpen chemistry is important to the unit of success? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think any team chemistry is important, you know, and you hear a lot of people talk about, well, if you're successful, that makes the chemistry. And I don't think so. Not all the time. I've been on some winning teams where we didn't have the greatest chemistry, and then, you know, been on some good teams where we had great chemistry and probably not as much talent as the other team. I think that year in Seattle in 2014 was kind of unique in the fact that we didn't have anybody sent down. I think maybe right at the beginning of the year, somebody was sent down or something for like Dom Leone to come up, but that was like a couple games in maybe. But we had no one get hurt or sent down because of poor performance, you know, and that never happens ever. Like, I have never witnessed that before, and I've never witnessed it after. So I think we kind of fed off each other, whether it was the chemistry of playing football, you know, doing routes every single day as our running. Like, that just kind of brought us together, along with all the dumb shit we did down there, and the, you know, the different things with the freaking just stuff like that. We just had so many things that we did, and I think that really helped everybody, one, feel comfortable, but then also you just expected everyone was going to get the job done, and there wasn't really a doubt that we were going to come in and blow a game, or one person. It didn't matter who was going in. You're just like, well, if we come in the game, this game's over, you know. And you talk about, obviously that year we were the best bullpen out there, but I don't know if there has ever been a better one ever. You know, I'm sure if you look statistically, there probably are some very comparable ones, but, you know, I don't think you will find a group that had zero changes the entire season. We had the exact same guys, and then, you know, a couple guys came up for whatever, double headers, or when we needed an extra arm or something like that. We had like Lukey come up, or towards the end of the year, Maurer, but we basically had the same guys the whole freaking year. And that's what made it that much better, you know, and that's why I do think having that chemistry is very important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It definitely, as a young guy, having that comfortable feeling down in the bullpen, being like, okay, yeah, we're all filling into our roles nicely. And I think that balance between older and younger, and I know Tom mentioned Rodney at the end. I think that was like the perfect guy to have close games, because his mentality was just, I think, one of one in one shape or form. He was Probably he was unaffected by performance, whether good or bad. I think that's what made them so good. And I'm sure you feel the same way about some of the great baseball players you've seen. It's like how important it is now when you're at the big league level that it's way more mental than it is physical. Obviously, there's a physical part of everything that we do, and not taking away from that, but do you feel that that's where the separation exists, is like being able to mentally handle the rigors of 162?
Yeah, it's, as you know, it's super easy to pitch when you've got all your good shit. Everything's going well. You're feeling good. You know, your life at home is going well. You and your wife are getting along, but obviously things change through the course of a season and something can throw a wrench into that. But being able to kind of, flush anything that goes negatively and either turn it into a positive or just go like, it just didn't work today, whatever. It's not that big of a deal. I'd say just that confidence always is going to be beneficial for the player. And, we look at guys and we've all had the teammates where they're like self-deprecating and they talk about how bad they are or things like that. Like I guarantee you would never see Derek Jeter after he strikes out come in the freaking dugout and go, oh, man, I freaking suck, or Mike Trout. So it should tell you something. And we see that, and you don't see it all the time, but you'll see, those guys who were in the bullpen and they like have a bad day and they're just like, oh man, I freaking suck. I can't get anybody out. It's like, well, that's why, because you're speaking like that. And same thing with Rodney.
You said it, man.
You would never see, Rodney, you would never see him do anything like that either. He'd just be like, yeah, gave up a lead. Yeah. He just,
all good.
It might have that appearance of like, I don't care. And he obviously cared, but you can't let those kind of things affect you because that it's going to happen again. The next night you're going to have to get the job done. And that's why I love being a reliever and not a starter, was because you could have that shitty outing and then you could wash it the next day. You're back in there, you get the job done the next day, and that freaking game you blew 2 days ago is gone forever, and you never think about it again. As a starter, you freaking have a bad outing and you just sit there for 4 days and wait for your next start. It's the most miserable thing ever, so that's what I loved about the bullpen. But it does take a specific and a certain person and a certain personality to be able to get through that stuff. And because it's just, everything's so much more compounded when you're out there if you do a bad job. Like if you blow a lead, it's like your offense does the job, the starting pitcher does the job, and everybody's pumped like, oh, we're going to win this game. And then all of a sudden you lose because the bullpen gives it up, you're just like, oh my God. And that's why I don't think they let us in the dugout. They just ship us off to like some island because they don't want us in there. They don't want to have to look us in the eye when we like blow a game. They'll slap you 5 after, like, yeah, you did a good job. But if you blow it, they're just like, thank God those guys are out there. So we can like bitch and complain about them and none of them can hear.
My gosh. It's so good. Oh man. All right. Well, I want to just shift gears and we're going to shift into our little Mariners weekly highlight, man, where we highlight Mariners things because a big part of our history is with the Mariners. Obviously, you've lived a long career, and the last 2 years in the big leagues we're in Seattle, and they came off a kind of a tough series in Anaheim. And I'm not sure if you've ever seen this, man, but Joe Adell, the right fielder for the Angels, robbed 3 home runs on Saturday.
Insane.
And they beat the Mariners 1-0. Like, and the third one he robbed, he like fell over it was incredible. Absolutely incredible. Have you been keeping tabs on the old Pacific Northwest team much this season?
I do. I saw that, and that was freaking insane. Like, I just couldn't believe, like, the first one I thought was just a replay or the second one I thought was just a replay of the first one. It was like very similar. But then that last one where he went into the stands, it was like, what is happening right now? Like, how did he catch these? And obviously if you rob 1 home run, that's freaking awesome. But doing it 3 times I don't know if I've definitely never seen that. And I'm not sure. I don't even know if it's ever happened. The game's been around for a long time, so I'm sure it's happened at some point, but nothing that I've ever witnessed. So it was pretty cool. You hate to say that, but even there was a year, I think, who hit it? Was it Jesus Montero hit that one that Trout robbed. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Standing right there.
And I mean,
It was Jesus.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, and it was just like because we were in the bullpen, and then all of a sudden you see like 3/4
Half
of
his body.
Mike Trout's body like up over the fence. Yeah, just like, and he catches it, and just I remember getting almost like teary eyed from that because the crowd went crazy. It was just such a cool experience to be back there, and it happens against your team, and you don't want to see it, but when you love the game and you get to see really cool shit like that was up there for me. So I couldn't even imagine. Obviously, you don't want a guy on the other team robbing 3 home runs and then you lose by a run. But it had to have been pretty cool to witness, I would say. If you're a baseball fan and you love the game, that had to be pretty awesome. But yeah, I haven't watched a lot of games yet this year. I just don't know why. I watched all the playoff games the Mariners were in last year, and it was just such a cool season for them. Wish they would have made it to the World Series, but hopefully they can do it again. And that's the whole thing with baseball, man. It's just there's so many games, and it's so hard to make it. It's so hard to just make it to the playoffs. So when you finally do get there, you have to make a run for it. And they obviously did that, but last year doesn't guarantee anything. You get a bunch of guys with career years, and then if 1 or 2 of them they don't play as well. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing right now with the Mariners is Cal Raleigh just hasn't hit like he did last year. And it's not that big of a deal because it's the first week and a half of the season. Obviously, no need to panic, and he'll obviously figure that out and get straightened out. Just go from hitting 50 plus home runs to hitting 0, so he's gonna find it and get back in the groove. But it's just everyone wants to start out well, especially how they finished last year. So on the fans end of things, and even the players, it's kind of hard to forget what you did last year, but also you've got to turn the page and do it again this year. And as great as fast starts are, that's really doesn't matter, And it's the old saying, it's not about how you start, it's how you finish. So they could start out great. And there's a bunch of teams I feel right now who have had pretty good, fast starts. And I just don't see it continuing throughout the year. And I could be wrong, but the Mariners are a team who I think the pieces are in place for them to have a successful season. But that's why they play the games as well. You don't just play them on paper.
Yeah, absolutely. Now they shift to Texas, got to face Jacob deGrom, another great pitcher. Wait a minute. Am I looking at 2 former Texas Rangers right now? Didn't you guys both don the Ranger uniform? Oh, I know Tom did, and he hates
not by choice, maybe?
Well, very briefly for myself. I
still counts.
Yeah, I was drafted by the Rangers in 1996.
Let's go.
Shit.
Yeah, 96. I was drafted by the Rangers out of my freshman year of junior college, and I didn't sign. But then I ended up signing with them in 2012, before I got to Seattle. And I had some arm issues the year before, and then 2012 in spring training absolutely just completely blew out. I was throwing heaters at 78. I was like, man, am I Jamie Moyer already? I thought I'd have a few years before I threw 78. Then got an MRI and oh, you don't have a UCL anymore. Okay, that makes more sense. So I got released there and got Tommy John. And then in between 2014 and 15, I had the good year in 2014 with the Mariners, wanted to come back there, didn't really work out. I signed with Texas, and I pitched an inning and 2/3 in spring training, and they released me, and then signed back with the Mariners. Kinda. I did have a Rangers uniform on at certain points, but never really played when it counted. So
there is a number 97 out there, briefly.
Yeah,
there is. Man.
There is.
Absolutely.
It's probably got in a box somewhere.
Aren't you still the only guy to wear number 97?
No, there a couple years ago there was a guy with the Yankees. I don't know what his name was, but he came in. I think he was a lefty too.
Okay, inspired by you.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I don't remember his name, but there was another 97. very briefly.
Okay, very cool though. No, that's it'll be fun to see the Mariners in action this week. I know the Rangers always are a tough task. They're always a team where they're going to spend money if they're in it, and AOS is hopefully the Mariners up for grabs for them. But it'll be fun to watch this series this week. But yeah, as we keep going, that's kind of the gist of it. We're actually going to introduce another segment called Bullpen Calls, where we take calls from fans. And Joe, you're going to participate with us. Unfortunately, we only have one question from our fans right now, but that's okay. You know what I mean? That's okay, right? And I think you'll have a good, and it's not, you got to start somewhere, right? I think that's where it is. Even if you're a rookie, everyone's a rookie sometimes. So here we are, getting through it. And the question we have from Seattle Guy on X is, given Julio's early struggles followed by a late resurgence, would it be wrong to blame him if the Mariners missed the playoffs because of the games that they lost in March and April? Now, for me, I'll lead the way. I don't think so. What about you guys?
No, I mean,
he's
blaming it on one guy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's what they're trying to put it on one guy right now.
I think he's historically started off slow too during the season, and then comes back and puts together what it is, an all-star type of year. But to put it on one guy, this early is no chance.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's just so many different ways you can win a ball game, and everybody's going to struggle at some point during the season. So to try and just blame one person, that's not the way games are won or lost, especially this early in the year. And obviously every game counts. I understand that, but they don't, right? Like if you lose in April, it's still the same. It's still the same as a loss in August, but it kind of isn't. I mean, let's be honest. You're going down a stretch. Those games are so much more hyped up for the players and for everybody involved. And we like to say that. People like to say, oh, you lose and we didn't make the playoffs because we lost too many in April. It's like, I don't believe that, because that's why the season is that long. And technically, yes, they count the same. But when you know that they are important games and you're able to raise yourself to the next level, that's what winning teams do, and it's just like in the playoffs. That's why you see different teams just run away, because those games are more important and they're able to lock it in. And some teams are able to do it, some teams aren't. But as I say that, I'm saying teams, not just one player. So if you ever blame a season on one player, then there's just no chance.
Yeah, I think with Julio specifically, and like you mentioned, Tom, All-Star, I think he finished 7th in MVP last year, puts together a great season when it comes to, the full body of work. But it just feels like, I think a lot of people feel that we're still waiting to see peak Julio. And I think when you look at him, he's got all the tools to be an MVP. So, I almost think conversely is like, as a young guy, if he could, continue to carve out his skill set and sharpen his mental, tools and what he has to deal with every day, every night, he does have this caliber to be an incredibly great player. Now, it makes me feel is that if he does unlock that side of his game, it almost makes me feel that, it could vault the Mariners into another level and ultimately get the team to where they've never been, which is the World Series.
Yeah, and baseball is so different
Absolutely nuts.
Than every other sport. Like you can't have one player cannot take over a game or, a season or a month and win everything for you. Like you see it in football all the time. You have a good quarterback and he's on fire. It's just different. They can take over a game. They can take over a season. If you have a great quarterback, they have a good season, you're probably going to win, as long as you have guys that aren't dropping the ball. But you still need guys to catch the ball, but that shit's easy. We did that all the time when we were, doing our passing routes one-handed.
Yeah, we did. Speaking of
basketball, same.
Yeah.
Speaking of other sports, Tom?
Yeah, speaking of other sports, Joe, I keep up with you, what you're doing, social media and such. I'm wondering if and when you're going to join the Professional Bowlers Tour. And is it harder to throw a perfect game as a bowler or an immaculate inning as a reliever?
Ooh.
Well, that is an outstanding question, by the way. But yeah, so a little backstory on my bowling is my uncle built a bowling alley when I was a kid back in 1985. So all the Beimels have bowled like our whole lives. For me, because I was
Yes.
playing for so long, I had different sports and stuff like that on the weekend. So bowling as a youth is on Saturdays. So I would wrestle and play baseball and stuff like that. So I haven't really bowled in a league since I was 12 up until like this is my third year back bowling. So I wanted to be good at it. So I have like a shit ton of bowling balls. I watch YouTube videos all the time. I have a ball spinner where I'll sand and put different surface on the ball so they do different things under different oil conditions, stuff like that. So I'm definitely into it, super nerd about it. But my family is really good, so I just wanted to be better than most of them, you know. But with the perfect game, so I had 300 games in like a 4-week period.
Yeah.
It was my first
Are
three.
you shitting
first
me,
one.
dude?
Yeah. Oh no, I'm not shitting you.
300s?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So
I bowled the 222 once, and I thought I was the king of the world. Oh my gosh. I will bow down to Joe. Bow down to Joe.
So I hit a 299 last year and I had 11 in a row, and then the last one got a 9. And then this year, first one got it. I was like, wow, that's crazy. My dad was there watching it. My son Grayson, he was there. He was like recording it on my phone. And then the next week I came back and I did it again. And I was like, oh my God, another one. And then I took a week off. I didn't get another one the third week. I was like, oh, I'll leave the pins have a break. And then the fourth week came back and got another one. And everyone's just kind of standing around, and you can see some of them, I think, are a little upset. So like, what the hell is this guy doing? Like, we've been bowling our whole lives and have never hit a 300. And then he comes in and he gets 3 in 4 weeks. So it's been pretty cool.
Oh
But
my gosh.
with that being said, I said that was a good question because I don't even know how to answer it, because bowling a perfect game is kind of crazy. And both of them take, like, obviously a certain amount of skill, but there is a certain amount of luck involved as well, because you can hit the pocket every single time and the ball just might get there a little bit late or doesn't hook in the same spot. Or, you know, in bowling, the pin setters are putting the pins down, but they're not putting the pins down like this, you know, this close every time. They'll be offset every once in a while. So if you get like one pin offset, that might throw off everything. So you might deserve a strike, but you might leave a pin, or you might leave a split if one pin is offset or just doesn't go through the pins right. And vice versa. You might throw an absolute terrible ball and you get a strike. So it's a little bit different, but and same thing with getting an immaculate inning. You know, you might throw a horrible pitch and someone might swing through it, or you might throw a freaking bastard and they flare it over somebody's head or hit a freaking homer. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it is very similar, but being able to strike somebody out at the big league level, I think, takes a little bit more skill than bowling a 300. And the only reason I say that, I have seen some people who have bowled 300s before and they don't look super athletic. I mean, I've seen some pitchers strike people out and they don't look athletic either. Like, let's not forget that. But I just think the skill set is way harder. And that's why you can see a former big leaguer can throw a 300, but a PBA bowler would have a hard time throwing, you know, an immaculate inning for sure.
Fair.
So I guess my answer is
But
the immaculate
impressive.
inning. We're going to go with that.
Okay. Equally
So
impressive.
are you,
man. How cool.
Joining the PBA here? Is that what it is here soon?
I've
Is
considered
there a
it.
draft? Is there a draft?
Yeah.
There
You
is.
enter the PBA draft?
Basically all you have to do is you have to have at least a 200 average in a sanctioned league. So, which I had last year. This year I'm about 215 in both leagues for the full season. We just finished one on Thursday. I needed a 689 series, go from 214 to 215. So I hit a 691 series. So I did it. And then on my Wednesday league, I'm at like, I think 214 in that one. So, but we have like 3 weeks left in that. So I'll need to step it up here. But with that being said, I could apply for a PBA card right now and get it, You just have to kind of pay a fee. But it's kind of weird. They do things where, if you go to a tournament, you're not necessarily in the tournament. You have to do the pre-qualifying if you haven't won anything. And then even if you've been on the tour for years, but you finish under a certain threshold, they kind of take like your not necessarily your card away, but there's a certain amount of players that just automatically get put into the tournament and they don't have to go to the pre-qualifying tournament. But if you don't bowl well, they take that away from you, And then like Mookie Betts has like I don't know, exemption or something. So he can bowl in like PBA events. And I hear all the time, they're like, oh, you bowl like Mookie Betts. I'm like, Mookie Betts is not even close to being as good of a bowler as I am. So do not even put me in the same categogy. All right.
Yeah.
He averages like
it.
189 or something. So don't even compare me. I am so much better. Yeah, I'm insulted being compared to Mookie Betts as an athlete. Come on.
That's amazing. But
Cool,
do you
man.
tell me you have like custom bowling Jordan
I'm
shoes
thinking
or something.
Kingpin.
You must
No.
have like some cool shoes, right?
My shoes right now that I have are camo. They're a
Okay, not
camouflage
surprised.
shoe. I really like them. They're pretty cool. I was going to try and make a pair of Jordans into bowling shoes. I think I was on like GPT trying to figure it out how I do that. But I haven't done it yet. I wasn't sure if I'd be able to slide correctly or they'd be comfortable, but it is definitely something I'm looking into. I would love if they just made a bowling shoe, but I don't see that happening anytime soon.
All right, Nike. Well, we'll go get Nike to make you a custom shoe. The Beimel bowler version 1 or something. I don't know.
And as you guys can imagine,
gosh,
I am like the cockiest freaking bowler. Like, no. When I first started
300.
bowling,
You can be.
yeah, when I first started bowling, like cousins of mine and stuff like that, they've been bowling their whole lives, like I said. And I would bowl better than them and beat them. And then I would just go, man, it's just crazy. You guys have been doing this your whole life. And then like I come back and I've been doing it for like 6 months and beat you. Like that's got to feel terrible. Or
That's so.
Or
Gotta let 'em
I'll
know.
go up and bowl and I'll go up and I'll hold my finish until the ball hits the pins and then it goes through and then I'll come back and be like, I will not be surprised if that pose right there is on like a poster in Walmart like any day now. And they're just like, wow, you are such a jackass. Like, yeah.
I'd buy it.
Gosh, dude. Right? Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Man. Now, Joe, before we sign off here, I want to give yourself a little plug for Beimel Elite. Tell us a little bit about the locations and how you are forming the youth in the future of baseball.
Yeah, so once I retired, the first time after the middle of 2017, me and a buddy of mine, Brent Dean, we started Beimel Elite Athletics. And won't go into crazy amount of detail, but basically we wanted to kind of help players. I felt like I learned a ton of things over my career, whether it's, mechanical, strength stuff, recovery, nutrition, water machines, just kind of bring that to younger players who had similar goals to what, we all had. And as you know, getting to the big leagues is hard and not everybody's going to be able to do it. But I wanted to just kind of take that knowledge and instead of these guys have to figure all these different things out on their own with all of that stuff like I did, I wanted to just go like, hey, here's a program, here's a plan, follow this. You're not going to say you're going to get to the big leagues because you do it, but you will become a better player. And really all depends on how much work you put in and all that, as you know. So we opened our first facility in the Los Angeles area. We're actually in Torrance, California there. And then a couple of years later, we had the opportunity to open another one in El Paso, Texas, which everyone says, well, why did you go to El Paso? So there's a long story behind that, but we basically had an opportunity through a mutual friend to go there. And at the time, El Paso is a big city. You don't really realize that. There's close to 1 million people that live there. And at the time they had like 60 high schools in the city, 60, and they did not have one D1 commit the year before we got there. So we wanted to just kind of go help with that, kind of help with the culture there in baseball. So that's been pretty cool. But yeah, you can kind of look on if anyone's interested. Our website is BeimelEliteAthletics.com. And then we also just started a podcast because we wanted to, we have all these conversations all the time, me and Brent, and we wanted to kind of put those out there because we get asked the same questions. You know, a lot of our athletes are high school players. So we have college guys, we have pro guys, we have big league guys. But with that being said, you're running a business. The big league guys are gone 6 months out of the year. The pro guys, same thing. College guys are usually only there in the summer. So we do have a majority of our clients are high school, trying to get to college, trying to get to the pros. And we just found ourselves having these conversations with parents and with athletes over and over again, and just different subjects, different scenarios. So we're like, let's just get on a freaking podcast and just record it, just so it's there and we can reference it and try and grow that side of things. And it's gone pretty well so far. It's, for me, I enjoy just getting on and talking about baseball, which when I played, that was never something I really ever thought about, but it does make it so much more fun and pass the time. And, you get to have these conversations like this where you remember the things that you've done, and it just gets you in this mindset. And I really like that. You know what I mean? It just, you get around the guys, you get around your former teammates, or you're talking about the game. And not to say you're living through the game again, but it's just a cool way to, one, pass the time, and two, be in a positive environment. Because, when we were talking earlier, being a civilian is not that cool. And that's what the first thing I tell people when they retire. It's because don't think you're going to retire and that's going to be freaking awesome, because it's not. And baseball has its own challenges, don't get me wrong. And it takes away from a lot of things. You have to sacrifice a ton of things to be in the big leagues. But at the end of the day, it's pretty freaking cool. So, I was even saying that to Dom Leone recently, just like, hey, just to let you know, being a civilian is not that cool. So I always tell guys, play as long as you possibly can. If if you're on the fence of if you should go out there and try, you should go out and try. There's no doubt in my mind, because there is no amount of 300 games in bowling are going to make up for the fact that you're not in the big leagues anymore, And when we started Beimel Elite Athletics, I feel like that was a huge benefit for me, because I know a lot of guys struggle when they retire. They struggle with what they want to do next, and you just lose that camaraderie with your teammates. You lose almost like that purpose, because we've done it for so long. It's like you worked your entire life to get somewhere and reach your goal. But the only thing is with baseball is you reach it and you're still young. Now you've got the rest of your life to live, And it's like, what do you do when you've put in all that work and you've reached your goal? Like something that very few people have ever done. You have to have something else. So it's good to find like these outlets. But like I said, with Beimel Elite Athletics, that was kind of my outlet right as I retired. So I never missed playing. I probably miss playing more now than I did. And it's been like 11 years since I was in the big league. So I didn't miss it at all back then, because I had that. I was going in, and we treat our gym like the clubhouse. We give the kids crap in there and, talk smack to them. And sometimes they're just
that's
like,
part of it.
What's going on? But yeah, for sure. But they, eventually come around, and we've just seen some of these kids that come in and they're socially awkward and they're like looking around like this. And by the time they leave after a few years, their freaking chest is up and out and they're talking crap to people. And you're like, oh man, I remember when I didn't think you should play baseball. I thought you should grab a computer and code, but now you're actually pretty good, So it's been cool. It's been a great experience to do that. And, we're still learning and still growing, but it's just one of those things that it's the second career, but it will never take the place of playing in the big leagues, like I said.
Yeah, I completely agree, man. And, we'd be happy if you want us to do a little roundtable on Beimel Elite Athletics. We'd love to hop on your podcast and talk some baseball with you. We appreciate you hopping on, man. You're an absolute legend, Joe.
Yeah, brother.
We hope to have you on again if you're willing. I think this is, like you said, man, I think the camaraderie is something we all miss once we get into that post retirement or post career, and it's just little things like this that bring it back and feel like we're just hanging out in the bullpen again. So what a treat it was, man. We appreciate you hanging out with us today.
Yeah, man. Well, thanks for having me on. Like I said, I love doing this kind of stuff, and especially with you guys. It's pretty cool to just be able to just hop on a freaking phone and
Yeah.
What's that?
Apologize
Okay.
here. My
Okay.
phone connected to my car. My wife
Lovely.
must have gotten the car, so I just saw your phone connected to your car, and I was like, "Wait a second, what just happened?" Everything cut off.
Oh, that's actually hilarious.
Yeah.
So we were just talking to the speakers to your wife, Carly. Perfect.
You were, for sure. Yeah, but yeah, I love doing this stuff, and like I said, especially with you guys, and we got to get together in person. Like I got to come out to Seattle or something.
Oh my gosh.
Get to a game or Arizona or whatever it is. I never need an excuse to, come to Arizona for sure. That's just like a hotbed for baseball. So I try to get out there every once in a while, but even coming up to Seattle would be awesome. Go to a game, hang out, and definitely do this
Drink
again.
some
at some
alkaline
point.
water for sure.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Well, and
Cool.
the best Bloody Mary that I have ever had was actually, Charlie, it wasn't at your wedding, but it was when I was out there for your wedding.
Okay.
There's a place called Duke's. I don't know if you've been there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Many times.
Bloody Mary's got like this crooked glass. Dude, best one I've ever had in my entire life. So I would not be upset to come out there and have another one of those.
Yeah.
Let's do
shout
it.
out to Dukes, man. We'll make it happen. We'll get the boys back up in Seattle or wherever, man. We need to hang out. That's the gist of it. It's been too long, and we appreciate it, man. But unless you got anything else, Tom, I think we're gonna wrap it up.
Well, great to see you, Joe. Always is. Charlie, you as well.
Obviously, Joe's obviously cooler than you, but we know that. But yeah, that's going to do it for today's episode. Thanks again, Joe. We appreciate you hanging out in the bullpen, and we'll see you guys next week.